We're just waiting a few minutes for a couple of people to pile in, and then we'll get started. We don't have anybody rolling yet. Looks like about 2 or 3 seconds of delay on the stream. The new higher bitrate looks clean. Everything looks good. I think we're okay. Sweet. Yay. The bot says I'm live. That's good. You could bring whatever you'd like. I don't know. A whole bunch of viewers. Bring viewers. I had the bandwidth test running, and when I posted all the stats, or when I posted all the stream links, so hopefully a bunch of people didn't hit it and then be like, there's nothing here, and then ignore it. But that's all right. They'll show up. Hey buddy, what are you doing? How you doing, man? Good to see you pop in. Just about to start working on the printer. Ta-da! Stuff. We'll start just a minute or two early. That's fine with me. See what we come up with. All right. I'm gonna be working on the desk. Move the camera down just a smidge. And in on the desk just a smidge. And there we go. That'll work. It's funny, it doesn't have viewer counts yet. That's all right. That says Twitch says 7. Welcome, guys. We're back at working on the 3D printer. We'll see what we can make of that. I'm going to stream chat pulled up over here. Yeah, that's actually Yoda. Little bobblehead Yoda thing. I knocked a bunch of crap over yesterday moving things around. So, put some of that back over. Ta-da. There's the Railcore Labs sticker and the Mandala Roseworks sticker. There's a Merchmania sticker right here, because right there. Looks like we're starting to get people slowly filtering in. That's a good sign. Made some adjustments to the bandwidth and things like that. No, it's, where did it get put? Oh, it's right here. Right there. All right, I think we're on X carriages. Is where I think we're at. I don't know. It'll be okay. The main camera's got most of it, so it'll be all right. I don't even know how to do that. You're going to have to show me how to do that, dude. All right, we need those. We need... There's all the pulleys and stuff. Yay! I'm glad it looks good. Hey, Steve, what's up, man? I completed the fight with Comcast over internet, and finally won that battle. So that's good. All right, so we need 5x50 cap head bolt. M3 5x50s. Although I'm not sure that's the right one. I think I need... Well, I was successful enough to get more bandwidth, thus the higher bit rate that we are streaming on today than yesterday. So that's a good start. Nylon spacers. Those are the shoulders. All right, Steve, I'm missing something. What am I missing? I'm doing these. The X front and back brackets. Got the spacers, I've got the shims. There's got to be a better way than snip cut shims. Upgrade opportunity. Yeah, so you're talking about these, but I thought these were for the the corners. Okay, gotta be here somewhere. Is it these? Nope, that's an IR sensor. I have somehow maybe misplaced it. I don't think I misplaced it. That's hot in parts. Oh, is it these here? That's 10 millimeter. So those are two 10 millimeters, and this is 4 20 millimeter shoulder bolts. So I need 2 of the 20 millimeters for the carriages, and I need a 10 and a 20 for each corner, right? Okay, so 2 20s. Okay, I was in the right place. Just, it's labeled as, in the instructions, it's labeled as 5 millimeter by 50 millimeter cap head bolt, and that is not what this is. Gonna need 2 of those. 2 of these smooth guys here. And we're gonna need a M3 by 10. Need to mute the notifications on my phone. Shush, phone. All right, washer. So we're working with shims on these, not washers. Because in this picture it says shims, and in the very next picture it says washer. Yeah, you're talking about these, the super thin, small shims. That I don't have a ton of. I've got 3 left over from last build and a few from this build. Because I know you need some on the corners, the corner idlers too. Yeah, the muffin tin is great. It lets me keep a lot of stuff organized. All right, so it says 5. I'm going to try and cut that down with yeah. So I'm going to try and cut that down with some with a washer because I don't have a ton of those. So I'm going to try and cut the max quantity down just a bit. Holy crap, thanks for the bits, man. Appreciate it. That should fall in there and knock those other things around. Smash. Not a ton of stuff in there yet. And then yes, I am in the process of exporting those for download as we speak. The really big file takes a while to come down. Hopefully that doesn't fit. That might not work. Because there's a lot of play in those. Is there anything I've got that's a little tighter? That's too tight. Those are not the right ones. Okay, so those washers. I hear dogs barking. Those have a lot of play in them. Yes, but we will be. I will be editing, or Kat will be editing. One of us will be editing the instructions down. that says 5, 6, 7 shims. So if I do it the way the instructions say, we'll need 7 shims each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for each side. So let's see here. That's toothed on top, that's toothed on bottom. For the, all right, we're gonna do Y-linear rails already installed. Okay, so the back, we're going to start with the back one. Back one gets approximately 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey man, welcome back. Good to see you. There's 5 shims. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I should bring the overhead down a little bit. Don't mind the earthquake. And also, that's all she wrote. The lav mic died? You can't hear me? Oh, weird. Something happened. Yep. Battery's toast. 1 second. That's why I left the other, what do you call it? That's why I left the other mic on, just in case something like that were to happen. Lav mic restored. Ooh, I like homemade pizza. Damn it, I hate you guys. Now I want pizza. You guys are awful. Somebody tell Kat to bring home pizza. All right. One of those. One of these. One of these. Tooth gear. One more shim. Not a lot of room left on that shank, which is just right. Oh yeah, that'll work. Awesome. You have fun with the rock banding. Those are a little stiff. These are the instructions off of the Google Docs, and I will note them. Oh, that is really stiff. We will. We will be building stuff for a while. It's not the threading. It's this idler I'm uncomfortable with how stiff the rotation is. It's got more drag in it than I would have liked. There we go. That seems a little better. I think it had a burr of aluminum stuck to it or something. Yeah, that's much better. It must have had a burr of aluminum or something stuck to it, because I found a little burr as I was taking it back apart. Got to put the exclamation point in, but I appreciate it anyway. Back. This is the back still. Much better. Now they're nice and free. That's really important that they're nice and free, by the way, because if they have any binding during the rotation, they'll cause the carriage to not move smoothly. So these have to be nice and smooth and slick the whole way through. So now we go back and do 7 more. 3, 5, and 2 separate for the middles. These little precision shims are nice. I know they're expensive. It might be nice to have a couple more because you're always so close to running out during the build. And thank you for the bits cheer. If you're not already, you got to be really close to the top of the leaderboard for the bits cheered total. There's 5, and then we are toothed pulley on top this time. 1 more shim. The idler. Nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. The 330, any 330 by 340 mag bed or flex plate is the correct size. It doesn't matter what printer it's for. It's you want 330 by 340, and that gives you just a little bit of a lip along the front. Yeah, it's from BuildTak. What do you call it? Geckotech also sells one. It's a standard size for one of the other printers. I don't remember off the top of my head which one. But you can source the flex plate from anywhere as long as it's nice and flat. Yeah, I have a 300 by 300 Geckotech before I realized the 330 by 340 was the perfect size. So I'm going to talk to them and see if I can get a 330 by 340 equivalent. Yeah, Raise 3D N2, that's right. So if you order any of the flex plates that fit the Raise 3D N2, it'll fit just fine. So now these are being aluminum threaded. These are a little finicky to put together. Nice and smooth. Beautiful. Now, don't want to over tighten them. That's super important to not over tighten those. You will regret it because the threads will rip right out on aluminum. If you're ever tightening aluminum and it goes from tight to not as tight, and you're not taking the bolt out, you definitely went too far and you started to pull the threads out of the aluminum. Typically the best way to fix that is to drill and tap them to a larger size and use a thing called a helicoil, which is it's basically just threads, and it goes in with a special tool. You can run the helicoil in and then it breaks off the little tine that you drive it in with, and it basically is big threads that become small threads, and then you can put the bolt into the new threads. It works pretty well for repairing that kind of damage. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. I am going to get my little anvil and a hammer. And then I'm going to mute the mic because otherwise you will all go deaf. There you go. Now nobody's deaf. I mean, unless you're already deaf, then that's not my fault. All right, M3 by 10. Need 2 of those. That is the wrong wrench. Yeah, 330 by 340 is the correct size. If it says it's compatible with the Raise 3D N2, it's the right one. Yes, what Steve said. All right, before I lose these shims, I'm going to put them away in a safe place, also known as the pie tin, as the muffin tin. You get back where you belong. There we go. I'm not normally a segregationist, but when it comes to fasteners, they're just going to have to deal with it. So what I did there with the anvil is they come with these little hand-cut shims so that the bolt has something to press up against between it and the rail. Because they're hand-cut, they've got a little bit of a warp to them. It doesn't affect anything. It's purely aesthetic. So it uses a round spacer from this end, like this, and it uses a flat spacer from this side. And by making it flat, it's less likely to get caught when you slide it in. So, and it's also a little more aesthetically pleasing, so no big deal. Doesn't really affect anything. Even if you didn't do anything to adjust it, it would make no difference. But I do it anyway because why not? So I need 2 3x16s, and those go in the front ends of these. And these are the bolts that lock the that's going to be Y carriage. These are the bolts that lock the Y. I believe it's the Y. These are the bolts that lock the Y rail in place. Because X, Y, Z. Or to quote a comedian, why? Because I gotta. Also, I'm a dork. Yes, that's the correct one. Raise 3D N2, build tack, flex plate. That is the right one, for sure. Yeah, so you put it on the opposite direction, but yes, you are correct. I personally like the fact that it's wider than deep. It makes it easier to like put it on shelves and things. I think that that's actually convenient. So there's those. I kind of wish I had the... wish I could build the... Yeah, I think I'm just going to take the corners back off of this and build them on the bench and then add them back. 2 seconds while I grab those. One. Man, once we sorted out the fact that the front and back panels had that slight skew to them, the frame came back to looking normal. So much better looking once we got those taken back off. So this is the rear and this is the front, and we'll go on the machine like this, and then your build volume will be here, and then your stepper motors will be here, and the carriage will run around in this space. These will go basically here and here, and the carriage will go between them this way, and then they'll move around that way. In fact, rail Y, here again, be very careful when you're taking these apart. If you slide this piece out, all the ball bearings will fall out, and it's really not that pleasant. So I'm going to gently push this out. So I'm going to push this piece out with this rail. So that way, as this piece slides out, the rail holds all the balls in place. It's a little scratchy usually in the process, but there you go. So now look at here. Don't let that slide off, but watch how so these are the rails. These are the Ziltech rails that are coming with the kit. Watch this. They slide right across. No catch, no nothing. Nice and smooth sounding. No hitches, no catches. These are great rails. They're all coming. The kits are all coming tested, so all the rails are disassembled and cleaned if needed to. Yeah, I was going to lubricate the rails post-assembly. I've got some, what do you call it? I picked up some of this. This is the best stuff I've found because it doesn't smell, and it's clear. It doesn't leave weird sticky films and crap on stuff. I really like this stuff. It's synthetic grease. It's clear. It's dielectric. You can even use it as a dielectric compound. It's really useful stuff. Yeah. It also comes in a liquid, like an oil. So yeah, super good stuff. This stuff's amazing. And it doesn't stink. That's one of the best things. You can even eat it. Like, you can use it to lubricate, like if you're using, if you use lab glass or whatever, you can eat this. If you get this in your mouth, it's non-toxic. It's just silicone and PTFE, both of which won't hurt you, especially in small quantities. But you can use it like if you have a KitchenAid, like a stand mixer, you can lubricate stand mixer parts without worrying about, oh, what if the grease gets into your food while you're making food or whatever. This stuff's totally safe. Great stuff to have around, and it's cheap. I think this whole tube, which will last me a lifetime, was like $8. Supposed to eat the chems. How else are you going to get addicted to the chems? Okay. Anyway, back to assembly. So this is the back, and that's the front. So this goes in here. So for ease of assembly, I'm going to use something to prop it up. this fancy Bond-Tech box. And then get the little aluminum chips out of there. Don't need those getting in the way. A little bit of machining schmoo. Don't need that. There's a little bit on this side too. Just a quick wipe down. Get the aluminum shavings out of there. There we go. That goes on there. This goes in here. It's going to be a little hard to see. Hopefully you guys can see that. So, and then this little round disc gets dropped in the front. And this little shim that we flattened earlier gets dropped in on the bottom. And then you just snug it up. You're going to have to adjust this later anyway. So you're just snugging it up to keep everything together. One there. This one here. And then it doesn't fall off. And then we're just going to do the exact opposite on this side. So this piece goes in here. Round disc in the front. Little shim on the bottom. Just slide that in there like so. Snug that piece in like that. Snug this one in like this. Doesn't have to be tight right now, but hey, keeps the rail. Here, this shows you how smooth these rails are. Beautiful. All right, let's go find Y belts, end stops. A lot of this, the instructions are all step by step, but a lot of the pieces can be done slightly out of order. I mean, some stuff clearly you have to do first. You can't put belts on before you put pulleys on, but a lot of this stuff like assembling these top plates, you can do all of that. It doesn't have to be at the exact time. Front stationary idler carrier. So there's two types of idler carriers. There's the aluminum ones, which are an upgrade. Although I think all the kits are coming with the aluminum ones. And there's also the 3D printed ones. I like the aluminum ones because they don't have flex issues. And for this, we're going to need a 3D printed part. So here's the 3D printed spacers. And then we're going to need 4 toothed pulleys. And we're going to need 2 10mm shoulder bolts. And we're going to need 2 10mm or 20mm shoulder bolts. Yeah, the aluminum parts, because, so plastic, I'm going to state the obvious here. Plastic is plastic, and I don't mean this is made out of plastic. I mean plastic is not a solid. It's flexible even when it feels solid. This feels solid, but it's not. It's actually plastic. Plastic is a term. Glass is plastic. Most people think of glass as a solid, but it's not. Asphalt, things like that. They feel solid when you fall on them, but they're really not. The term is plastic, which means flexible or malleable. So good thing to keep track of. These you have to be really careful. The way they're threaded, it's super easy to cross thread these. So you have to be really careful to not do that. So we need shoulder bolt. Back to shims here. Shoulder bolt, 1 shim. And we're building the back stationary idler. So that's the front. We'll put it aside for a minute. So this is the rear stationary idler, which is going to be shoulder bolt, 1 shim, the toothed pulley. They say 2 to 3 shims. So this is where you got to kind of like put it together. Start with 2. If it's got too much play, take it back apart, add a 3rd, because you don't want to crush them, because they will crush into this plastic. So then the plastic one, and you can look at the very edge, and you can see that there is still room on that shank. So what I'm going to do is take this back off and put 1 more shim on that and see what that looks like. It might be too much, but it might not. So put that back on. Okay, that is perfectly flush with the bottom of the shank. So when this is threaded in, it should be flat and tight, but not too tight where it binds anything. And then we're going to do kind of the same thing. 1 shim at the top. And the reason you use these shims, so if you look at the way these are built, it's going to be hard to see. If you look at the way those are built, there's the inner race for the bearing and the outer race for the bearing. Boy, that's so backwards to my head. There you go. There's the inner race to the bearing and the outer race to the bearing. The inner race turns and the outer race is pressed into the aluminum. So what you have to do is you have to use the shim so that the only thing that squeezes this thing is that's squeezed in this whole assembly is the inner race. That inner race allows it to turn, and if you use a larger diameter washer and it touched the outer race, it would bind. They're not directional, so it doesn't matter which way you put them on. I kind of look at both sides. Whichever one's prettier is the one I put up because it's the one you're going to see. So 1 shim. And you can feel it. Like if you pull on the threads and turn this, you can feel that there's no bind in that. So that's exactly what you're looking for. And this says it's going to take 3 to 4 shims approximately. So we're just going to add shims until it fits. 2, 3, looks like 1 more, 4. Apparently somebody's home. Okay, so that's that one. My concern here is I only have 6 total shims left, which is not enough to complete the other one. So I'm going to switch to washers to try and take up some of that slack. But you also still need to make sure that there is a shim between the washer and the idler. If I had my preference, I would get a couple more of these shims and just use the shims, because I think it's a better solution. But the washer will be fine. And it's how the other one was built. It's a pretty common way, because these little shims are expensive. So by sourcing out a larger but these have a fairly large tolerance around the shim. So I think I'm actually going to reduce. Okay, so these are approximately, let's see here. They're going to be the equivalent of somewhere around 2 or 3 shims. I'm kind of looking at how much space they take up. It looks like they take up about the space of 2 shims. So I'm going to take off 2 shims here. So that saves me 2 shims. I'm going to add this body washer, which should be adequate. And then I'm going to put this spacer back on. That'll be fine. So that saved me 2 shims. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. 1 body washer to replace 2 shims. All right, I still need 1 more shim here, so it's going to be 2 shims instead of 1. Yeah, that'll work. You have to be really careful putting these on. Make sure all the washers are straight and even. And then I would recommend starting these by hand because they're super easy to cross thread because they have to be really tight. And if you're ever trying to figure out if you've got the thread right, if you turn the bolt backwards, like you're taking it out, even though you're pressing it against the piece, you'll feel it tick. You'll feel it click when the thread tooth steps off of the one below it, and then you can start forward. Yeah, those are really tight, but you can see I can thread it in by hand. If you can't thread it by hand, make sure that you're not missing something. And then you don't want to tighten it down too much because your shims tend to slide, and I know you guys can't see this, so I apologize, but I'm just kind of pushing the shims so that they go back onto the shoulder of the bolt. And it's a little tedious to get those lined back up, but you don't want to crush the shims or the washer, and that will cross thread, also cause you to cross thread or pull threads, and it won't be tight. So once it's lined up and square, come on. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with here with stuff. Yeah, I will probably order another bag of shims just to get these out of here. They're not going to hurt anything. They'll work fine. But I like shims better, so. There we go. That's the wrong one. Gently tighten this slowly. Make sure the shims don't shift and get in between the shoulder and the threads. And as you tighten it down, you want to make sure, see, this binds. This is binding. Something on this is not okay. So we're going to take it back out and try again. So if I loosen it just the tiniest bit, it doesn't bind. So something's not right. And you don't want to run this in and out too many times because it causes the aluminum to get soft, or kind of chowders the aluminum a little bit. You don't want to do that. Okay, so remember I was talking about the fact that you need a shim between the shoulder and the bearing part? That's why. It was binding because the head was riding up against the outer race on the bearing because I didn't get the shim between the head and the idler, which is why I had to add a second shim down there, which I didn't think I needed to. That's better. Much better. And we are doing this one here. Always, if you can, thread it in by hand so you know, because your fingers are not going to cross thread it to the point where you're going to damage it. You might go tight, but at that point, you crank it down with one of these in a soft aluminum, you're done for. Give it a little snug. There we go, nice and smooth. Yeah, I think that'll work. Bearings in this one are a little chewy. But that's just the nature of these cheap Chinese idlers. You can literally feel the ball bearings in this one tick, but it's not sticky. It's nice, even, smooth. Just it has a little bit of a tick to it, and that will wear in a few rotations. But it's not stiff. It's not sticky. It's just got the slightest bit of a cog to it. These here, they're on Amazon. A couple of people have asked me about them. I don't have a link. I really need to put an Amazon affiliate store link thing down in my doobly-doo. Amanda Cat, if she's watching or listening, could do that maybe at some point. Because I don't know anything about doing that. So yeah. But anyway, I've been using these for the better part of 3 years, 2-3 years. I use them on drones all the time. If you just look up hex driver on Amazon, they still have them. They look just like this. And the thing that impressed me is most of the time Allens and stuff, these get wallowed out and then they're just not good. These at 3 years on are still nice and sharp and square. You can see the reflection on them is not dull, even though I use them many times a week. Yes, newer, that's it. Those are the right ones. But see, it's not sticky, it's smooth, it rotates easy. I think Steve bought a set after my last stream. But yeah, see, this rotates nice and easy. That's totally acceptable. Need to lengthen the amount of time it takes for my computer to go to sleep. So this is the one we built earlier. Everything's all nice and smooth. You don't have to worry about the rotation on the plastic bit. Same thing applies. We're gonna kind of try and thread it in by hand. Roll it backwards if need be to get that little tick. Threads in nice and easy. Once you're sure it's in, you can go back to the driver, but it's nice and not binding. You can see it's just 2 fingers. If it's not tight and it doesn't turn like this, double check stuff before you tighten it any further. And just once it's snug, so as tight as you can tighten it with 2 fingers, snug, you only need to go this much more. Just tweak. That's it. That's all you need. Now, it's still smooth. That here again, as soon as you put compression on those bearings, you get a little bit of that cogging, but that's totally normal. As long as they spin free and don't like easy tight as you turn them, that's fine. So I'll put these back in. You don't have to put washers on these, but I like putting washers on them because it keeps you from chewing into the aluminum, and there's plenty of room in the thread length for it. So anytime I can use washers on screws, I always do that. But that's overkill, but that's the best kind of kill. So all right, so now these are going to be, this next one is, I believe, opposite. So the next one is, let's see here. You even mentioned in the instructions to be really careful. So yes, so this one is going to be, so this one, the rear, is tall on the outside and short on the inside. This one is going to be tall on the inside and short on the outside. So it's reversed. The assembly process is the same, but the positioning is backwards. So it's going to be 1 shim. Hey, we're at 20 viewers again. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out. 1 shim, 1 idler. Here again, spins nice and easy. And then it'll be something very similar to this one. So I went 1 shim, and I don't know if it was 1 shim or 2 shims. Might have been 2 shims. So, but we'll check it, because the printed piece varies in height slightly sometimes. So put that shim on. Then we go 1 washer. That's just to take up distance in the shim. I am pretty sure that was 2. So we'll go to a second washer, or a second shim. And we put the washer on. Make sure that looks just like that one. Yep, that looks just like that one. Now we can put this piece on, and it extends just the tiniest bit below the collar. I'm going to take one of these shims off and see if that's better. Just use the pulley to push the shim up till it comes off the collar. Just like that. So I'm going to go back to 1 shim instead of 2. Then I'm going to go to the washer. Then I'm going to go to the printed part. Yep, that's better. So this one needed 2 shims between here and here, and this one needed 1 shim, and that's going to be a difference just in the printed part's height. Because these are like 0.4 millimeters. So this one was just a little extended. This one's perfectly flat. And then here again, same thing. Really careful putting these in. Make sure that they don't cross thread them. There we go. Threads in. The first time I started to turn that, it tried to cross thread. I could feel it. It was tight right away. Again, just the little tiniest bit of a snug. Just squeak. Again, all that nice and smooth. Just a little bit of a cog. This piece is nice and bound. So that's good there. And then shim. Idler. And then I have enough shims, this is the last one, But I'm just going to use shims instead of a washer to make this spacing. All right, one more. I like the precision of the shims. I think it's a better finish. And this one really likes to kind of dance around because it's barely on the shank. So when you're putting it in by hand, be really careful that it doesn't get out of alignment. What t-shirt are you talking about? The best kind of kill is overkill? So this one is being a little fiddly. And that's definitely crooked. So we'll try it again. What I'm doing is I'm feeling for the tick. There it is, right there. Oh, I lost it. That's not straight. I might do the run it in from the reverse side thing on this one because it's being difficult. Most of them I have not had to. Make sure there's no burrs or anything like that. Okay, I'm going to run this one in from the other side because I feel more comfortable with that. And this side starts way easier. Same thing, you got to make sure you don't accidentally pinch the shims. So we'll just run that up. And then I'm going to turn this backwards till I feel the click. That should have been it. Yep, that was it. Nice and smooth. Yeah, so these are probably one of the hardest parts until you get into the alignment section. These are the most fiddly parts about the assembly because if this is wrong and these are bind up, they will pull your XY carriage out of square as they bind at different points, and you'll get tiny warping that's really hard to troubleshoot as it's moving this way, since both to move in the X direction or the Y direction, they both have to spin at exactly the same speed and distance. So if these have a stiff spot where the front motor or the front stepper or the right or the rear stepper have just the tiniest bit of belt stretch, you'll get instead of traveling in a straight line, you'll get a little tiny tick in your straight line. So it'll be printing along and then it'll push in and pull out as that stiff spot passes. And that's where you'll get artifacting in the surfaces of your smooth front lines. The cogging, that little ticking, that will wear in. As long as they're free and they spin real nice like this, you're fine. And we'll put all these. So I ended up with 4 spare shims, which means I could replace, and in fact, I'm going to replace this one. I'm going to take this back out. I don't mind having the body shim on top of the plastic, it gives a little larger footprint so that the shim doesn't press into the plastic. But here where it's aluminum on aluminum, I'm gonna like having the shim in there better. So I'm gonna take this one back out. And we know that the body washer is roughly 2 shims wide. So I'm gonna take this body washer off, and I'm gonna take 2 shims and replace them. And it would have been fine the other way. There's no problem with the way it was the other way. But if you have it and it's better, use it. Same thing, I turned it backwards until I felt the click. I wish you could hear that. You might even have been able to hear that one because that one had a bit of a tick to it. But I just like the finish on that better. You want to see what these look like? Let me see if I can get it into macro. I'm going to use my now very dog fur covered shirt and see if I can get you. So you've got, let me get something to point with. On this one, you've got 3 shims stacked up, and then it's the bearing and the idler, and then it's 1 shim on top. You can kind of see it in there, that little tiny gap right here, and then the shoulder bolt. On this one, there's nothing underneath the plastic. The plastic is touching the aluminum, but it's 1 body washer. You can see how much larger that washer is. So that distributes the weight over this plastic, which I actually like. And then it's 1 shim, because you always need 1 shim between the bearing and the idler. And then it's the idler, and then it's 1 more shim right here. And it's just like that for all of the assemblies. So that's the rear. On these here, they're going to be very similar. Come on, focus. You can do it. Slow, 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 slow. I should just switch it to manual. It's focusing on my finger, on my hand at the back. Okay, that's fine. I can switch you to manual. And then there we go. Same thing. You can see there's a shim right here, and then the idler. And you can see there's a tiny gap here created by that next shim. You can see I'm just barely touching that with the pliers. It turns with just the tiniest bit of friction. And then up top, there's a pile of shims. You could save on shims right here with one of those washers. You could replace, like, put 2 washers in and pull 4 shims out from right there if you wanted to save shims. I totally got away with like a bag and a half. I had a few extra from the last build. And then when we were building this piece, this is that disc that I was talking about. And then that piece that I hammered flat is in between the end of this screw right here that goes in right here. This is backwards, so a little hard on the brain. So it's this piece right here. And what that does is it gives the screw something flat to press against so that it doesn't ride in this V of the linear rail. So basically what it does is it makes sure that the linear rail is pressed up and back in the mount so that it's square and even on both sides. Put you back on autofocus. Yeah, so the instructions only talk about shims. The kit comes with 1 bag of shims and some of those little washers to reduce the number of shims required. And either way is fine. It doesn't hurt anything. I prefer the shims. I will probably at some point order another bag of shims and replace that one last washer. I do like the washers on top of the plastic, but the one shim that is, or the one, I can't even think. I used one somewhere that I think I could replace. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe it was just that one. Yeah, no, I didn't. I had just enough. So, but anyway, it's more than one bag's worth of shims. So, but it's like one bag plus like 4. So you end up having to buy 2 bags, and you have all these leftover shims. So one bag of shims costs way more than this one whole bag of 100 body washers. So, and you'll get more use out of these in the long run, most likely. Hey, we're at 16 viewers. Welcome, viewers. I am more than happy to, if you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to stop and show and explain anything you guys want to see, even if it's not 3D printer related. Like if there's something in the background you want to see or whatever, I'm more than happy to pull that over and show that to you guys too. So now I'm going to go get the printer, and we're going to bring that up, and we're going to put those parts back on it. And then we're going to put the Y carriage on. No, the kit comes with a bag of shims and a bag of those large washers. And it's kind of 6 in one, half a dozen of the other. The body washers don't hurt anything. They're perfectly fine. Under the aluminum, I prefer shims, all shims, instead of shims in a body washer. But there are 3 shims underneath this one here, whereas you can get away with using 2 shims and 1 body washer underneath this piece here. But I prefer all shims. Whereas on the plastic, I actually prefer the body washer. It gives you more area, so that, because the shims are really small, so it gives you more surface area, so it's not trying to crush that printed plastic. So it actually works really well. The other thing you could do is you could, and this is by no means really a big deal either way, you could, and it would be just unused, you can get one of these idlers, these non-toothed idlers, or another toothed idler, and replace this printed part, and it wouldn't hurt anything. No, so I'm a huge fan of the Railcore and the Railcore group. I'm not part of Project R3D. I paid for this printer out of my pocket. This is the second one, and so I don't have any reason to lead you guys astray other than the fact that I'm passionate about the project and I think that this is a really good printer. It's not the cheapest. It's not the simplest. It's a really fun project if you enjoy this kind of thing. The development team, Steve and Tony, Steve's here in chat if you have any questions about the development process or things that are going on. But Steve and Tony are very active in the community. The Facebook community group is really, really good. Everybody's friendly. I'm in the CR10 group on Facebook, and there are times that the CR10 group is a little toxic. I don't ever see that with this group. This group is really good, and I just kind of believe in it, and I like it, and here we are. I have criticized a few things over the builds. I have the cool thing is some of the things I criticized in the first build were fixed by the time I got my second printer. They were already fixed. When I was doing the first build, you're the lead enthusiast. You've got a Halo, right? You've got one. I want a Halo so bad. So that they're making a Halo that replaces all of this top mount pieces with a single piece of milled aluminum that goes all the way around the printer. And it replaces these top mounts and the aluminum motor mounts. And it's a work of art. It's beautiful. I want one really bad. They're not cheap parts. They're like $140. But if yours is all 3D printed, your motor mounts are 3D printed, and your front idler or your front pulley mounts are 3D printed, by the time you order these aluminum parts and those aluminum parts, you're already like halfway to the price of a Halo. If it's in your budget, just buy the Halo. They come from the same manufacturer. I think those are all 713 maker parts. They're beautiful, and he makes really good stuff. He was in chat last time we were streaming. Yeah, not a lot of benefit. But for example, if you don't have these aluminum parts already, huge benefit from these aluminum parts. I do not have a link. Can one of you guys grab a link for 713 Maker and dump it in chat for me? But if you're on 3D printed idler mounts, this is one of the best upgrades you can get for the printer, period. This is the first thing I would replace these printed parts. The printed parts over time, because of the tension on the belt, tend to warp. And as soon as they warp, that's Siri. Thanks, Siri. Stop screwing up my stream. But they tend to warp up. And when they warp up, the belt then rides against the top of the pulley and it creates tension. Yes, I believe these aluminum parts come with all of the kits. So the Halo's not a huge upgrade for the kit. But if you're self-sourcing and you already have to buy the front and rear aluminum parts, just go with the Halo. I would also suspect, just like the magnetic bed, if you call Joe and say, hey, I'm going to order a Halo, I believe that there's a process in place where if you buy a Halo, you can get a disc. They will leave these parts out of your printer kit. Yeah, you get a $40 refund. So they're pretty customizable. While they are a standard kit, they're not without choices and options. So I bought the mag bed. I have all of the upgrade parts except for the Halo. So this is the aluminum Y carriage. So what's really funny is this is the Y carriage for the that holds the hot end and the fan and things like that. So that's this piece here. And I can kind of show you. This goes in the printer. It'll face this, this way. And then this screws on like so, I believe. Yep, just like that. That goes on like this. And then your hot end belt bolts on right here. Make sure I zoom back on the camera. Yep, hot end bolts on here. And the belts come around and go in here, and around and go in here, and the belts are what pull this way, and the other belts pull this way. So I built this piece so that I can get the printer together and get it printing so that I can print just the back part of this so that I can bolt to this and replace this front piece. So I actually have to get the printer printing so that I can print a part that it came with to replace for this upgrade. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. All of my other printers are glass beds, and I'm really looking forward to having a flex plate bed. It'll be the first one of those I've had, so that'll be quite the treat. So yeah, this part does not come with the printer. This is a lightweight Y plate from 713 Maker, and it requires a printed part for the belts to attach to. They're working on making an aluminum part to replace the printed part. So yeah, this goes on. Let me get this here. That goes there, and then so see this piece right here. This is this piece. I don't remember if it goes this way or this way, but anyway, this front piece, this line right here is this line right here, but you still need the part for the belts to attach to. So I don't know what the trick is with, I don't know if there's a way to get those apart. I know that that adhesive is really aggressive, and I'm not sure what it would take to get it apart. It's why I bought my mag bed before. That being said, those heaters are not terribly expensive. The STL for this is available on Thingiverse in the Railcore group. If you just search Railcore, it's in there. And it's readily available, easy to download and print. It's not even a hard part to print. It does add up eventually. That's why I did the upgrade to the mag bed out of the gate and told Joe to hold on to the other bed, because I didn't want to waste one of the Kenovo heaters. All right, let's get the printer up here and start putting parts on it, because that's what you guys are all here to see. You're not here to see me yak. And I'm gonna do, oh, I gotta raise the camera because otherwise I will smash it, and that's not good. So flip this around, and then up it goes. Oh, I'm gonna go, there we go. Perfect. It's got to be really careful because the cord, if I catch it, the cord will rip stuff down off the computer next to it. There we go. Stay. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the camera I did yesterday, since that seemed to work pretty well. I will point the camera down at this corner so that way you guys can watch. And that's pretty blown out and bright. I'm going to turn the light down just a smidge. That still doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it where it goes. Sorry that the reflective metal up here is a little shiny. Yeah, I did that first one in one sitting. That was a marathon build. Pick the camera up a little bit, but you can't see a whole lot. This is why I have tripods, because you can do things that make viewing easier. So we'll just go up. Lock that down. Give her a little bit, and now you should be able to see a little bit better. Yeah, this thing is super tall. Okay, so we are now looking at the front. So this is the front. Motors, stepper motors go on this side. So you'll notice that these, they're labeled. This says front idler, so it goes here. And the back one says back idler. But you can tell because this L with this little wing is what matches to here. So it's really easy to know where things got to go. Yeah, so I'm going to put mine, I've got these relatively low cabinets from IKEA. They're not great, but they're decent. A little quick room tour here. Right there. These. There's two of them there. One's got my toolbox on it. The other one will have the printer on it, I think. I may move the toolbox to the other side, but works great. All right, perfect. So we've got 3 nuts here, here, and here, and 1 here. And then we're just going to line them all up and screw them all in. Sometimes it's easier to line them up if you've got the screw not in the hole. You can kind of use one of the ends of these or something along those lines to line it all up. Like that one there, it's not cooperating, so I'm going to pull it out of the hole and use this to pull the nut a little further back out, because it's easy to push it in further. It's hard to pull it back out. Push that back in there just like that. I know you guys can't really see this part, but anyway, just lining up screws, no big deal. So then I take something flat. It doesn't have to be crazy flat, but just something relatively flat. These are really flat, just because I've got them. They're other parts for putting the printer together. I'm just lining up the extrusions so that they're all nice and even and square. So everything lines up with everything else. And just snug that down so it doesn't move. And then you can just use just a little bit of pressure to make sure everything is squared up. And then tighten it down. You don't want to tighten one all the way, so you're going to kind of want to go and do a little tighter, this one a little tighter, and as you go, you'll notice that they kind of get a little looser each way, and I just kind of go around like 2 or 3 times and give them a little snug each time, so that way everything settles. Same kind of policies apply for things like putting on lug nuts on tires and things like that. I have not seen him yet tonight. Yes, my HDPE is pretty close. A little shave with an X-Acto knife is totally acceptable. What you don't want is you don't want any flex. If your HDPE sticks up above your rails, you can try loosening the bolts. See if it'll shift down a little bit. If it doesn't, you can just shave it with an X-Acto knife, something along these lines. Just extend this out, lay it flat on the extrusion, and then just shave, and you can flatten that out. Okay, now I need the other one wherever I set it. Yep, there we go. So we're going to do the same thing. So the wing points towards the motor bracket. Just kind of visually lining these up in the gap. And just get these just barely finger tight so that way it doesn't slop around. Where it's still loose enough, you can give it a little bit of wiggle. Same thing. Use something flat and something square to get that exactly where it needs to be. Just give it a little bit of a tweak. Check one more time. And you'll be able to feel it'll rock if it's not square. Just give it a little bit of a push to line it all back up. And then go through and do 2 or 3 rounds of snugging. So it's because of the angle of it's because of the viewing angle of the lenses that they look angled. They're not. They're definitely flat with the extrusion and off to the edge. They do look angled in the because this is a fairly wide angled lens. It gives it a little bit of a warp. Flat things don't look flat. I think you can see it in, you can see the warp in a long piece like this. There's a little bit of a twist to it. You'll notice I have these taped because they can slide off the end. Always a really good idea to tape these. So until you get that bracket on and can stop it from sliding around, which is what we're about to do. So go back and check the instructions here. Good there. We're ahead of mounting the XY carriage. So 3mm by 8mm bolts. And it's going to be 4 per one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, not wanting to play picking up a million linear rail balls anytime soon. So I'm going to take the blue tape off. Be very careful to not throw them on the ground. Because the advantage of these nice tested and cleaned linear rails is if you tip this thing, they will slide. And make sure, okay, so it goes this way. And I'm going to turn this so hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. Yep. So the back looks just like the front, so you guys can see the... So here is where the adjustment comes into play. It's too wide to fit between the rails right now. So we're gonna loosen this one just a tiny bit, and this one just a tiny bit, and slide this bracket in just a little. And you see, now it fits. So and I'm not going to tighten these yet. I'm just going to get them started, get all four in. So there's one. I'll put one in the back. Ooh, 2 degrees. Yuck, man. 2 degrees. That's terrible. I think it was in the 60s today. Yeah, and I've also gonna upload this stuff. I'm gonna try and edit this a little bit and upload it to YouTube. So that way it's got the instructions and things like that a little more condensed. So that way it's not a 10-hour view per section. And we're going to calibrate all the alignments on this. So the fact that these aren't perfect is okay for right now. Yeah, it might. There are times I've thought that it might be easier to work on the floor, but then I remember I'd have to sit down and my back would hate me in the morning, so I'd have to sit on the floor and work. So the dog thinks we're being either robbed or assassinated or something. Are you here to kill us?
Yes.
Oh no.
And steal all the dog food.
Oh no. We are doomed. Doomed, I tell you.
I'm going to steal that pig food.
So what I'm doing here is I'm just loosening these just a smidgen, and then I'm going to go get the caliper, and I'm going to level this plate right here with the top of the linear slide, so that way it is truly level to the linear slide. There's no cant or angle, because if you'll notice, if you twist this, it will change the level of your inside rail. And this is one of those processes that the more accurate you can make it in the process of building it, the better your result will be in the end. So taking the time to do little stuff like this is super useful. They make better tools for doing this, but I got to kind of run what I brung. So that is 1.72. That is 1.65. So the back is a little high. I'm just going to snug this one corner down so that way we can adjust the back. And then we're going to want both sides to be the same. So that's 1.68, 1.75, so we're going to go up just the tiniest bit. 1.76, 1.78. That is close enough. That is within margin of error. Make sure that it doesn't move. We're going to recheck it once this next bolt is tight. 1.78, 1.77. Close enough. It's good enough for government work. So we'll snug that one down, re-snug this one down, re-snug this one down. I'm happy with that level of flatness. And now we're going to get the other side to the same height, or at least try. One more check, since we just tightened a bunch of stuff. 1.73. See, it moved a little bit. 1.75. We're within 0.02, and I believe the accuracy on these calipers is 0.05, so we're within margin of error. Yeah, style indicator would be better, but I got to use what I got. And the reality is 0.05 is close enough. I mean, technically this printer will print 0.01, so it's probably not close enough, but for the most part, it's close enough. This one's nice because from this direction, I'll be able to actually read it. See, this one's much taller. So, and I think it's also tight. So I'm going to that one's loose. That one's now loose. That one's now loose. Okay, now I can move it around. And we're going to get it as close to 1.7. Let's go and measure this one more time. 1.75. 1.76. So we're going to try and get this to... Now what I like is you can see how flat it is on this back edge, but you can't on the front because of the sticker. So I'm going to actually still go back and check it from this side. 2.1. So it needs to go down just the tiniest bit, and it doesn't want to really move. 2.23. So I don't know if that's a limitation of the... Now, one of the things that's cool is we're going to get this as close as we can, but in the leveling process, the bed will take care of it as long as it's not tilted this way, where it can't, the bed can't fix that. You also want it to not be tilted this way. But as long as we can get this parallel with the slide and this side parallel with the slide, we can adjust that vertical with this rail. So we can move this whole rail up or down just the tiniest bit to get it even distance from this side, and the bed leveling can take care of the difference. So the kit comes with these. I think this is what you're talking about. It's in here somewhere. There it is. The kit comes with these, and they slip on here. I don't want to push them on because they're a tight fit, but they slip on here and they hold the rail and the extrusion, and they center the rail in the extrusion, and there's 2 of them, so you put one here and one there, and then you can make sure that it's framed into the part. That's awesome. Joe's amazing. So that is loose, and it looks like I'm not going to be able to get down to 1.75. So what I will probably do is get it as low as I can. And make sure it's just flat. And I'm just going to try and get it flat. So that's 2.14 and 2.2. So I'm going to need to bring the back up just the tiniest bit to get it level. And I'm going to snug this bolt down so it's got a pivot point. .18. 2.10. So I need to go up 0.08. Kind of using the light to guide this so that I get a nice flat edge. So we're at 2.22 and 2.20. That's within enough margin of error that tightening it down is going to warp it a bit. .26. Nope, something must have moved. So, recheck it. 2.24. 2.17. So it's still too tall. So just a little bit of a tweak. It doesn't take much. 2.16. So we're actually turning the whole assembly just slightly. So my front and back is kind of adjusting each other. 2.24. 2.26. Close enough. So let's bolts tight. Hopefully it's close. .20. 2.21. That's really close. Now we'll just go around and do a quick tighten on all of these. Make sure that nothing moves. And then we'll go back and look at the other side and see if we can slide it so that it's closer. Yeah, there's a... When you guys have the link to either... Are you looking for the BuildTech link or to the GeckoTech link? 2.17... 2.16. Close enough. I'm all right with that. I am actually going to go back and look at this one again and see, recheck it, see if it's really as far low as it feels. 2.16 or 2.7 or 1.76 and 1.77. So I'm going to try and pick this one up. So if you go out to GeckoTech's site, you're just looking for the 330 by 340 spring plate. It should be the Raise N2 plate. So I'm actually going to loosen these since it's not where I want it to be. And I'm going to try and pick up this thing and see how much play I have in the machining. Because there is a little bit. You can see, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but there's a little bit. So if I just pick it up all the way and tighten one down, let's see where that gets me. .99. So I was able to get 0.2 out of that. That's actually remarkably close. I'm within 0.2 as is. Let's see if it stays when I tighten it. Be lucky if I did. .99. 2.00. Okay, that's close enough for me. And so that's going to mean front to back, I've only got a difference in height of 0.2, which I have that much room in the rail adjustment, so I can compensate for it. Also, the bed, when it levels, will compensate for it. Just going around and giving them all one last little snug. I will give them one last recheck. I find that the build surface you print on really depends on what you're printing. 197. Certain filaments definitely like certain print materials better. I try to not put too much stock in. I probably ought to not eat anything while you guys talking to you guys. Try not to put too much stock into, oh, I only use BuildTech or I only use GeckoTech or whatever, because a lot of it is very dependent. The bond is very chemically dependent on the composition of the filament. So I have a bunch of different things that I print on. I have a couple of different compounds I use for adhesion. And I just kind of wing it. Like, I know certain filaments like for example, certain filaments like this. I make this. This is, what is it? Clear Elmer's glue, denatured alcohol, and a little bit of water. And that's all that's in here. And I paint it on glass, and it sticks like nobody's business. It's fantastic. It's 1 part Elmer's glue, 4 parts water, and then I add 10% by volume denatured alcohol. It works really well, and it's dirt cheap. You get a bottle of clear Elmer's glue for $2, and a gallon of denatured alcohol for 10. And you'll notice that these still slide nice and smooth as long as you're pushing in the middle. If you push at this end, they're a little more, see, it binds, but if you push in the middle, it's nice and smooth. Now I'm going to try and line up. I'm going to loosen the locking mechanism on these just a smidge, and I'm going to try and center the rail. It doesn't matter. This is just me being OCD about things. Come on. So that's pretty close to flush. That's sticking out quite a bit, so we'll go back the other way about 50%. This one doesn't matter. It's not actually a mechanical adjustment that you need to make, so it doesn't really matter if that rail is perfectly square. But it does matter that it's seated back and that you make sure you get all the chips and stuff like that out of the back, because you don't want it to seat improperly. So you got to make sure it's clean. It's nice and clean when you put that rail in. Come on. There it is. And I'll be doing a lot of tuning and tweaking and modifying of this printer, since this is the one I own. The first one I built for someone else. And it turned out really good and all those things. But there we go. Oop, there's a little bit of bind at that end. That means that this... Oh, hold on. There we go. It was just out of alignment a little bit. Yeah, even if you tweak this just a little bit, it'll bind. So that's why it's super important to make sure your belts are the same tightness. So that way it's pulling evenly at all times in all directions. Because otherwise you will kink this, you tweak this carriage, and then it binds and just does bad things. So there's that. What's the next step? Oh, you know what? I took these out while I was troubleshooting. I can probably put these rails back in. So this one's going to go back here. A little bit of tape in the way. There we go. Still taping those down to make sure they don't go anywhere. And I'm not going to be able to go super long tonight on this because I also have, like, you know, normal 9 to 5 work in the morning, so. And then I'm going to pick this up flush. I'm going to use the same trick. Use a piece of known good square aluminum. Pick it up flush. Go get the wrench. And then snug it down. not critical, but makes it look nice if there's all the edges are nice and square. Because all the adjustments done on the rail, so this is just making it pretty. Yeah, they're here. They do. They go for miles. These are much easier to put in before the sides are on them because you can get them all square and tight. I had to take them off because of the troubleshooting we were doing with the front and back panels that were not square. And I'm holding it carefully so that I don't accidentally, even if the tape were to let go, I don't accidentally drop the linear slide. Same thing, gonna line it up nice and square. Anybody going to Murph? I will have this printer there, or at least that's the plan. So still working on the logistics of shipping. If any of you guys have recommendations for shipping a printer, and we're actually going to ship 3 of these. If any of you guys have any recommendations for who to go through or packaging or anything like that, please feel free to reach out because I am not quite sure at the moment, but we'll get it. Yeah, looking forward to Murph. Murph's going to be super fun. Last year was super fun. This year will be super fun too. I took the tape off this one. Going to put it back on as soon as I get it past the screws. Just going to be careful. You guys can't see this side, so hold on one second. I'll get the printer turned around once I get it slotted in. All right, rails past the screws. I'm going to tape it. One more. Line it up just like before. Yeah, we're going to try and I think we're bringing 3 Railcores right now from Seattle to Murph. I think that's the current plan. So I think we're going to pack a whole pallet of Railcore stuff and ship it. I forgot to move the camera like a dummy. Sorry. Okay. So, those are back on. I built Joe's first Railcore kit. I built it. That's the one Joel reviewed. And then this is technically supposed to be the first ZLT kit. I think that there was some shipping delays on because of the government shutdown and stuff like that, as far as Joe getting supplies. So this got delayed a little bit. So they kind of went all out as a group, but this is still theoretically the first kit. So it's always fun helping test stuff. I love the rain here. I love this weather. I live for this weather. I'm really happy with it. Nice. All right. It's 8:30. What do you think we should do, Steve? I got about another 30 minutes before I need to call it. What do you think we should do next? I don't know. I'm so far out of order at this point. I don't know exactly what the next step is. Looks like some mounting of steppers, maybe. XY's done. Looking at the instructions here. Idlers are done. Linear rails are done. Z brackets are done. Top extrusion's done. So it looks like idler carriers are done. Y carriage is installed. So it looks like the next step we should do is this 4 by 8 millimeter. That's 10s. Where's the 8s? Here they are. 2, 3, 4. So when you put these threaded inserts in, one of the things you'll do is you'll kind of block up the part. So I recommend, because you have to drive, when you put the belt brackets in, you have to put the screw in this way. But this will be all gummed up from setting these. So the first thing you do is take like a 16 millimeter bolt and run it in backwards to break all that loose. But the next thing I think we do is mount that right there. Because we're getting pretty close to the point where we start putting belts on it. And I'm not going to get it all super tight or any of that because I'm waiting for the front and back. I'm not going to print on it until they get here. But we can get it really close. And if there's room in this bracket, I'm going to use a washer. I like washers. They keep plastic from crushing. I tend to err on the side of using them. I have a whole bag of them, so if they fit in those recesses, I'm going to use them. What's 1200? Is that the flight for you? Oh man. Why don't you fly up to Seattle, pick me up and the wife up, and fly us down? I'll pay for fuel. Not joking. Okay, those are not going to fit, so take that back out. So you're going to have to fly from Minneapolis to Seattle. And then we're going to fly from Seattle to Goshen, from Goshen to Seattle, and then you can fly back to Minneapolis. That sounds like a plan. If it's a Cessna, it's probably 4 seats. What are you, like a 172, 152, something like that? 6? Sweet. We're stopping in Kansas City. Ooh, 210. Nice. Absolutely. I spent my whole life going to the Oshkosh Air Show every year. I've gotten to fly in a few cool things over the years, both military and civilian. So that was cool. I have a really hard time picking what my coolest ride is, though. I've flown in a lot of really neat, interesting, weird things. I got to go for a flight in a Sopwith Camel, which is World War I. Hey, Aaron, what's going on, man? Got to fly in a Sopwith Camel. Got to fly the trainer seat in a P-51. Yeah, we're talking airplanes. Got to fly the trainer seat in a P-51, including run the stick, which was awesome. So that was really, really cool. That was technically supposed to be my dad's ride, but my dad was all like, "You're cool. Why don't you go in my place?" And that's the only opportunity probably ever he would have had to fly in that thing, and he gave it to me. So super honored. I did. I've flown in a B-52. That was fun. I got to fly in the Connie, the Constellation. That was fun too. I flew in that when they were doing rides in it at Oshkosh. I have flown in a C5. No, some of those flights are relatively expensive. The P-51, we actually know somebody who owns one, so I got to fly in that kind of because. And the Connie was a paid flight. The B-52 was a paid flight. I got to... The Sopwith Camel was a paid flight. So there's a place called Rhinebeck Aerodrome in New York. If you're ever in New York, I highly recommend it. Really cool. They fly some old World War I stuff. Do a little bit of, air show type reenactment with World War I silliness. Why does that not feel like it's getting tighter? So the Rhinebeck Aerodrome was super cool. Something's not right. But I have a really hard time picking between the P-51 because it's a freaking P-51 and the I spent quite a few years in the military, and I was Air Force veteran, and I was overseas in the Persian Gulf, and I got the opportunity to fly backseat in an F-16. That is an experience. It's the only way I can describe it. That is an experience. Overseas, not in U.S. airspace regulation bullshit. In the field where you theoretically could be shot, so you take off at 100% throttle with afterburner, and then you get altitude by going straight up. It's intense. It was a really cool experience. Super glad I got to have it. But I still don't know, for a number one experience, if I would pick that or the P-51. I didn't get to fly the F-16. I got to fly the P-51 a little bit. So that's a tough call. Cool things to have gotten a chance to sit in. I got to sit in the cockpit of a U-2. That was neat. It was still all covered because a lot of it's classified. But I got to sit in the cockpit of a U-2. That was super cool. Got to do a lot of fun stuff in the military. Got to do a lot of shitty stuff in the military too. No, I didn't do much latrine cleaning, but so I worked for the military. I did what they called combat comm, which is kind of today's equivalent, or at least the portion of combat comm I did is kind of today's equivalent of the backpack radio guy from Vietnam. So I spent a lot of time with Green Berets and PJs and stuff like that, and did a lot of stuff over in the Middle East. Concorde simulator is pretty cool. All right, so I think we put some stepper motors in it. What do you guys think? Well, they were good stepper motors. At least they're tough. I'm just looking up what size bolts the steppers get. All right, it's in here somewhere. I think we want 10s. Yeah, that should be about right. Maybe 8s, but I don't think so. Let's see. Yep, we're going to want 8s. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 washers. Nice. Zero frames dropped so far tonight in a 2.5 hour stream. Yeah, that would be a pretty cool experience. I was at Oshkosh in 1996, I think, and one of the pilots from the SR-71 was doing a lecture, and he handed me a little tiny piece of titanium. And it's this little piece of like damaged fragment of the plane, and I still have it. It's super cool. It's one of the few like really neat, cherished things I own. You know what? That is not my favorite airplane. Absolutely not my favorite airplane. You guys are going to laugh. My favorite airplane is the Warthog. That thing is just awesome. A-10, best airplane ever made. I have stuck my fingers in the barrels of the Gao more times than I should probably admit because it was fun. It is the best gun with an airplane as an accessory. You are 100% right, sir. Yeah, I think, what is it, Gao 8? I think it's Gao 8. Typically not lead. Typically they're depleted uranium. But yeah, for every I think it's every 1 second of fire time, they lose 15 knots of forward velocity. But they only carry 3 seconds of rounds, so it's not really like the highest risk. I never got a chance to sit in an A10. Would have killed for that one. That's my favorite plane. I mean, the U2 was pretty freaking awesome, but the A10, way cooler. You get all kinds of fun opportunities when you're the guy in the field that carries around the phone that can call home and let people talk to their kids and wives. You get all kinds of like little, hey, you wanna come look at the airplane, or other miscellaneous things. Steve, can I put this on with that Y plate? I also don't see why not. So YOLO, right? Oh, there, I didn't even see you sneak in. I have not been paying as much attention to chat as I should be. Welcome back, sir. Yeah, she's slacking off downstairs. She should be back up here helping, but no, she's downstairs. Oh, I meant to give you some crap. Sir, when you build 3D printers, they're built with metric parts. I had to go to the garage to get Allen keys to fit these stupid SAE bolts. Sir, SAE bolts in a 3D printer? Mm-mm. Oh, you're right. You're right. Those are Melinda part. I'm sorry. I take it all back. Then I'm going to give Melinda crap when I talk to them next. Thank you for not making that error, because dumb. I haven't looked at this. I'm assuming it goes together logically. Does it? What am I not seeing? That goes like that. Put the gun part on first, the smaller one. This one, yeah, I got it. Goes on the Y plate. Does it stick out this way? You can't really see that. I can't use this yet because I don't have the belt piece. I have to use the printed one in order to print the part. I need to put this on. Ear pointing towards the belt holder. Okay, my engineering brain not functioning apparently. I have a picture. I see that. But there's no, like, should go this way, like so. This way, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's counterclockwise. So, okay, so goes like so. I have never seen a picture of this installed on anything, so I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around it. And then I'm assuming it just lines up like this. They go together like this. Oh, you can't see squat. They go together like this. This behind this with those two screws. Man, the stream delay is killer. Oh, picture. Load, 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 load. Oh, interesting. Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay. Thank you for the picture. It's worth 1,000 words. Lol. What do I want? Like short.
Sorry guys, nothing for you. We've all just had this stuff eaten forever.
More washers. Because I can. Protects the aluminum parts. No, it's not built yet.
It's starting to look like a printer, though.
It is starting to look like a printer. People were asking where you were at. They liked you hanging out with me.
Oh, sorry, guys. I was downstairs snacking.
Well, you can come in here and snack.
I'm just gonna go lay down.
No. I'm only doing this for another about 10 minutes. This is the last piece.
Oh, okay. I'll come say hi.
Last piece for the night. I'm going to wrap up about 9 Pacific time. And we'll call it good. Just snug. Yeah, we need a girl in here. My viewer count's low.
Sorry, I'm not showing enough cleavage for that. Oh, and of course I come in right as Steve's leaving.
You leaving, Steve?
Yeah, somebody saying bye, J. Steve White.
Steve, you can't leave. We're done in like 5 minutes.
Now I gotta catch up with what's going on in chat.
Well, you've got about 3 hours worth of stream to catch up on. You missed the part where I was thoroughly confused on what goes where.
Hi, Wild Tree Ogre. Are you still hanging around?
He was here a minute ago.
Yeah. Woot woot. Hello. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I picked up, what, 1 follower tonight so far? If you guys like this stuff, you guys should throw a follow on. I'm going to continue doing these kind of things. This printer's got a lot of longevity left on this channel. So, there's one.
Yay!
The
Just Padawan!
that way you guys will see me pop up. I do all kinds of other stuff. I do batteries and electronics and all of that kind of stuff. So, drones. A little bit of camera stuff here and there, some computer stuff now and then. Don't really do much in the way of gaming, but it's not out of the question. Could do it.
Aaron, to answer your question, I was specifically asking Wild Tree Ogre, but I will happily know how you're doing as well. Playing some classic EQ. Talk about old school. And watching K9. Aaron says, aw shucks, blush. The way you got the printer positioned right now, your little bits bag looks like it's got a port sticking out of it.
Yep. So 99% sure.
It's a submarine bag.
Yep, that's the only place that one can go. At least that one's an easy guess.
Aaron says he's doing well. Glad to hear it. Glad you're doing well. sound hungry.
I am hungry. It's one of the reasons we're wrapping up the stream in a couple of minutes.
Good, then you can eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Because I had pasta. That being said, it wasn't very good.
That's probably because you made it.
I tried a new sauce and I did not care for it.
Who knew?
Washers down!
Washers everywhere.
Aaron says he's going to be trying to fix some stuff on his printer after he finishes dinner.
You should live stream it.
And wants to know if anybody listens to podcasts on 3D printing.
Not podcasts. I watch a lot of YouTube.
I'm going to say, I watch a lot of Joel and Maker's Muse. And I'm going to be a really terrible person. Who's the blonde guy with the accent? Because name fart in my head right now.
Yes. Same problem.
Oh, now I feel like a jerk because I can't remember his name.
Finland, right?
Yeah.
I think he's from Finland.
Yeah.
Oh my god, why can I not think of his name?
Aaron says he watches a lot of YouTube but have several points in the day where the audio format is better.
Yes, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I felt so stupid.
I watch some of Stefan's stuff. I like his stuff too. Yeah, I couldn't think of Tom's name for nothing. I met Tom and couldn't remember who it was. Like a dummy.
You're at 106 followers.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
You're doing good.
We're at what, 23 right now? Nice.
Where do you see that?
23 viewers.
Nice. I just
Um,
gotta get to the new layout.
yeah, that's cool.
Your printer needs to go on a diet.
What do you mean? What's wrong with...
I'm loading the link. Ultralight hot end.
Look here, you. It's right here. It's right here. I have to print the part to hold it. I got the ultralight hot end. What it needs is an ultralight belt bracket.
Yes, John, he does want us to buy all the new shinies. Can't blame him.
But I need this bracket to print the not aluminum part to hold this part. Okay, I think that's it for the night. That was pretty good progress. I'm happy with that. I'm going to spin things down. Any questions or anything else?
Have you pimped your merch today?
I haven't pimped my merch yet.
You should.
You should put the link in the doobly-doo.
I can do that.
So down in the doobly-doo and also right there is a link to the merch store. There's only one piece of merch in here that's actually mine. That's got my little minion on it. I'm going to point the camera at the screen, and then you guys can see all of the trippy camera in screen inception. Oh, here. Let's get funky. Wah! Wave your hand in front of it. But look, merch right there. Merch on the screen. Anyway, click the merch. If you buy the Railcore stuff or the Melinda Rose stuff, proceeds go to benefit them. Helps keep this project moving forward. If you buy the little cute guy on the black shirt, that goes to me. I appreciate it. All these are printed by us for the Railcore team and Melinda and stuff like that. So
Mandala.
Mandala, sorry.
You are getting tired.
I am getting tired. So support the community, support the team, help keep these guys paid so they can keep making
Awesomeness.
more cool printer add-ons. And Tony's, I know, working super hard on the tool changer. So I know that's coming in the relatively near future. And so he's putting all those hours in for no dollars. So feel free to support those guys. They can use it for all the work that they put into this thing. So anyway, on that note, I'm gonna wrap stuff up. Throw a couple of dollars their way if you got the spare, and I will see you guys maybe tomorrow evening. I gotta work, so it would be in the evening.
Yes, really quick. Engineer Aaron says your monitor is upside down. Yes, we know. It's how you get the skinny bezel.
Yeah, so the bezel on the quote-unquote bottom is thick, so it's flipped upside down so that it's got two skinny bezels right next to each other. Because there's two monitors, and they're identical. So thick bezel on the bottom, thin bezel on the top, in the middle, and then... No, because it's still uniform. It's thick on the edges and skinny in the middle. So it doesn't trigger the OCD. Plus, also, thin bezels in the middle are better than thick bezels in the middle. So it would be worth it anyway. Because look at how skinny these bezels are. There's not a lot of space in there. So.
All right. That's all I see worth going after.
Okay, guys. I'm going to wrap stuff up, shut the stream down. It was great. And I'm going to go eat a cheeseburger. Talk to you guys later. Bye.